There goes the camera.
All right, you're on now.
There you Blair Witch.
Yeah. Dr. Mark Majors has worked in this field for a very, very long time. He actually originally worked with the company that publishes the Myers-Briggs. And he is a Christian. He has his own very small seminary where he teaches people how to do biblical counseling. But he's also got a PhD in psychometrics. So all the statistical stuff. So while he was working with them, with not only the Myers-Briggs, but the Strong's Interest Inventory and others, he said, you know, right now your stuff is about in the 60s in terms of reliability and validity. I can help you get that up into the 90s, which is pretty unusual for things like these, like documents like your Myers-Briggs personality tests and that sort of thing, and Strong's Interest Inventory. But they said for a variety of reasons no, so he decided to do his own company and his own products, and they are in the 90%, both for reliability and validity. In addition to that, and so he, by the way, well, we're not going to get into the personality aspect of it. I use my personality determinations to help people figure out where they want to work and what kind of careers they want to do and what kind of majors they may want to go into colleges and what kind of volunteer work they want to do when they've retired and that sort of thing, because I do that with people who are getting close to that as well. But he took in addition to getting the interest inventory that you had from like the Strongs, he added a qualification to it as well. What kind of an environment will you want to work in? What kinds of things? So we've got two sets of information from his product. And the first one is that he talks about the fact that all positions are made up of different tasks, different activities, and occur in specific environments or settings. So I'm going to share with you now 11 what he calls occupational activity groupings, which are made up of different tasks, activities, and environments as well. I'll get into the personality side of this from Holland. I'll explain that to you in just a few moments for the second set of this as well. But these are 11 areas that you can then choose from, and in fact what we're going to ask you to do, and what has been asked by Kevin, is that you choose up to 2 that best represent each of your positions that are volunteer positions. So as you have whatever one you've written up or the ones you're going to write up, what you want to do is go through there and say, okay, are there at least 2 of these areas that would fit, that people would fit into? And so we'll talk about each one of them as we go through, so you can see. You may only have one that you say, you know, really only one of these things really fits for this particular position. So these measures are just here's a brief description of each one of them, and you have a more complete definition of each one. But I'm just going to give you just the short definition so you have sort of a handle to go by. The business management is leading and directing individuals, typically comfortable making decisions that impact others. So as you would look at one of your positions, you say, okay, is this position going to be one in which I'm going to ask the person to lead other people? Again, a volunteer position. And if necessary, can I call on that person to make decisions for how they do things or where they do them and when they do them? And so it's sort of in a more directors. That's the kind of environment that you want that person to be working in. So there's some tasks that go along with that, and there's more defined tasks in there, and obviously some other things that go along with that. But mainly this is the environment I'm going to have this particular person occupy when they're doing this particular position. Second one is business and financial. This obviously gets into the business side of things, but from a financial standpoint, not so much the leadership stuff, but it's budgetary and financial kinds of things that you want people to be able to respond to and to be able to make decisions based on, and maybe even just do the work. Come in and have a volunteer position where they actually sit down and help you do all the financial things that have to be done to make this church work.
That could be Susan on our staff, maybe. Indoor.
Yeah, you may have a volunteer who actually does want to help Susan. Maybe she's overwhelmed. Maybe there's some things that a project comes up that requires a situation like this. Obviously, it's going to be indoors. It's not going to be leading anybody. Not going to be making decisions for other people's lives and that sort of thing. But they are going to be able to deal with the financial end of things. Number 3 is digital data. Now this normally is an environment where you are actually helping, you have a volunteer position where they're actually doing maybe the web page, and they're designing programs for the web page. They're making sure the web page is always up to date. I mean, it normally is always up to date here.
Obviously, you haven't read it lately.
Yes, yes. Well, that was said a little bit sarcastically,
Yeah.
but
Fellowship 1.
yes. So these people will enjoy hours. The kind of people who would be good. They like being by themselves. They don't mind sitting down and working and concentrating on maybe problem solving or designing something that will make this church work better all by themselves. Number 4 is mechanical. These are things that people will do. They might be able to help some of the folks that do a lot of the mechanical work. A lot of people who might be volunteer positions for things that you do to maintain the whole plant. They work with the physical environment, obviously. Typically successful at designing and producing tangible objects for results. Maybe building something, maybe building sets, maybe building things out like you did with the
two-car garage.
The two-car garage that's out there. That's right. So that kind of thing where you get people, this position requires a person like that. It likes working in that kind of environment. It likes working with tools. And then there's the scientific. Obviously, this would be, it is called scientific, and I know the church doesn't do a lot of scientific research and brand new stuff and describing unknown information. However, you do have environments where you're trying to work with things where you're looking for people who can put brand new creative things together. Now, so it's scientific from that standpoint. We're just giving you the correct terminology. You can translate that into saying, well, it's not scientific from the standpoint of doing research for science, but it is brand new creative environments, but there's going to be another creative environment as well. But it's going to be sort of discovering where we want to go with a program, what we want to do. These kinds of people will be looking for new ways, new pathways, new ways of applying old stuff that makes us have actually a better situation and a better church. Ways for growing this church, not just in terms of numbers, but what kinds of ministries, for instance, would be the kind of research. Where do we go next for our community? Artistic, this does get really into the creative side of it, and this is where people who have got lots of skill, who like to express themselves in something brand new and different, that is not necessarily of the programmatic thing, but is an expression, well, like the people who were doing cats. Obviously, somewhat creative artistically speaking, and who can do all the drawings, or who can do massive presentations that you might put on the screen along with either sermons or something that goes along with some other program that people are doing. And then you've got social group involvement. This is where they serve the needs and desires of other people, groups or teams. Sometimes it's one person who is serving a group. Sometimes it'll be one group serving a person. But these are the kind of position where they're going to have to be able to and like getting involved with people, consistently involved with people, not just sporadically, but consistently involved with people. Number 8 is home and nature. Now this opens up the whole field for people like who work in the home environment, who might work in a volunteer position where they deal with people who are always in the home environment. Children's type of things comes to mind, of course, and as well as the outside environment. And here we're talking not the plant so much, but the things that are outside surrounding the plant. Individual and personal service, and this is the focus here, is where an individual is serving the needs and desires of other people. That's, as it says here, so though not exclusively done in an office, as scheduled activities in a quiet, comfortable setting. These would be people like you have upstairs already that are working upstairs. They are actually paid. They're not in a volunteer position, but they do, on an individual basis, serve people who walk in the door. So this is individual personal service. And you can see that kind of an environment where you've got to have somebody who's willing to go and do something to help somebody, maybe come in the office and do it with them. it may require, you can be a little bit lax with this one. You can say, okay, yeah, I really want them to be able to be out there working with some people. So it's a little bit like the other social group thing that we talked about already. But this also requires people to be able to do things inside this environment as well, for people who might come in the door. Number 10, government service. Now, this government service is really a term that is used to talk about structure. People who really like working in a structured environment. Tasks and activities, expectations are very highly structured. You got to have detailed plans, detailed specific guidelines that people must follow to be able to accomplish this position. And there are people who really function really, really well when there is no question. I've got to do this. You may even have it like sometimes the government really does have this, where if you got to make a decision, here's a decision logic table. You've got this question, here's how you make that decision, and here's the decision you come to. You don't create it. This is the one we want you to have. And if you've got positions that are really detailed and you really don't have a lot of latitude for mistakes to be made, or people to just sort of creatively do something that you don't really want to have done, then that's the kind of person you want to have in there, and that's what you would call a government position, and that's what you'd want when somebody comes out and says, yeah, I really like that kind of environment. That's the position you put them in. And the last one, health and medical, really focuses on the care and maintenance of a person's physical well-being. They function well in, and this is the key thing here, not so much that you have to have a person dealing with a sick person. Obviously it can mean that as well, and you probably have some positions where you want them to be able to be the kind of people who visit the sick people, but who are also able to deal with traumatic events of
so
all
like
kinds.
Security team. Your
Security team would fit into that. It is the health of the environment, health of the people who are still here. Your security team would really fit into that as well. They also might have the second one, because we're asking you to choose 2 for each position. It might be a number 10 as well. So you might say, my positions on the security team, they've got to be able to make sure that they accomplish exactly the way we want them, because the laws and the rules of the city and the state require us that they can only do certain things in a certain way, because if they don't, we get in trouble, we get sued. And so they've got to be very structured, but also they ought to have the idea that I'm here to protect the people. So it would be a 10 and 11 for the security team people. But there are probably other positions that you would have like that as well. So you can see the kinds of environment as well as the kinds of tasks and activities that go into each one of these environments. Questions? Because I've covered these pretty quickly, but what kind of questions do you have?
So with the government service, what kinds of things do you think within the church?
Well, what is the structured position you have? What is anything that's got structure? I just gave an example for his.
Right.
I'm sure there are things that he does not want his people to do or to get creative about.
Right.
There are certain laws and rules and regulations they must abide by.
Well, you know, if, let's say attendance entering into Fellowship 1 or any type of our database entry,
Right.
we could fit under that.
Right.
Otherwise,
Anything
we'll
that's
have
really, any of your
Tammy
jobs
and
that are
Jennifer
really
would
structured
still be for
and
individual else,
you
okay.
do not want to have a lot of deviation.
So put someone like me in there, you end up with creativity, and they don't like that in the database. Oh, hey, let's create a new area. Yeah.
Right. That's true.
So a lot of these, will these overlap then? So like the digital data,
That's
Fellowship
yes.
1,
Mhm.
government service.
Yes, that's why you'll have 2. That's why he wants you to choose 2. There will be some overlap. You may have one that says, this is my principal one, this is my secondary one, that I'd like to make sure that the person I select at least fits into these 2 things. Or you may even say that they're really co-equal. I'm just as much concerned about the structure of an environment as they're concerned for the health of people. Both things are as equal. It doesn't make any difference how you see them as more important or less important, but you choose 2. You may say, there's really only one that fits the position that I've described. That's okay.
So when this goes to the congregation, are
This
we,
will not go to the
It's
congregation.
just done through
Why not?
inventory.
No, I will have an inventory, or you will use an inventory that he and I have talked about. They will complete it. It takes about 15 minutes online to do. We get the results that will tell us what they have told us without knowing that they have told us that they fit into one of these 11 areas and 6 others that I'm going to share with you in a minute.
Okay, so are these the things that are going to go on Fellowship 1?
Yes.
That we're going to put
Yes.
the people that respond
So
to that?
anything that Bob's talking to, this is going into Fellowship 1.
Okay.
Where do you see people who really see their skills as teaching? Because that's what a lot of my volunteers.
Okay, you tell me a little bit where you think any of these 11, you've got 11 of these things here. Where do you think it would be important that you would think? Because this is much
Nothing
more
on page
important
one.
about yeah, you don't look
Pretty
at
much nothing on the first page. No. Artistic would fall in there. Social group could fall in there. Some of the individual and personal service.
Where do you think, of all the people that you have to deal with in teaching, what do you want them to be able to do? What kind of an environment are they going to work in? And what kind of work do you want them to be able to do? Are they going to be doing primarily sort of the managing of people?
Yeah, because they're working with children, so there's care of children.
Boy, to me, that's business management. Because they are being willing to make the decisions about the lives of other people.
Okay.
They're in there by themselves. I mean,
That's right.
but they're in there with a classroom.
They're able to make decisions. They don't have any problem making decisions, saying, look, child, this is what you're supposed to do.
And I think, and then the social group involvement when they have to be consistent with those.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad that you figured that one out. I mean, I could certainly be. I'm more than happy to tell you that it's much more important that you make the decision for yourselves as to this is what I really need in my people who volunteer for this position. So there's 1 or 2 things.
So Bob's going to stay with us for the first few positions we're doing.
Right.
You know, not so much to answer your question of,
but to help guide you to do it.
but you can say, okay, what is home in nature again? Explain that to me a little bit more, so that I may want to use that one in this case. Or what is this? So.
Yes, and so we can deal with some of those to be able to get the examples and help.
9, the individual and personal service. So that's like if you're working with a group of somebody's really. I mean, a teacher may have responsibility over a group of kids, but really is better off, not better off, but sometimes you just really need to focus on the one-on-one.
That may be true. In fact, you may have 2
That's what I'm
people.
trying to figure out.
You may have 2 people in a teaching situation. One of them is the primary teacher who's going to be dealing with the group and is going to have the group doing certain things. You may have the assistant to that particular person who's really focusing on the person who's acting out. Or the person who has got a problem, doesn't understand something. That would be the individual.
Okay.
Now they might have the secondary thing might be the thing, because they might have to substitute doing the primary thing. So the second one on that one would be being able to do the large group thing. The first one would be for the person who's dealing with the large group thing, principally speaking. And these are not hard and fast. I mean, you make an initial decision, and once you get a person into that position, you say, you know, I don't think that was really the best one. I think what I need to do is use this other definition here for how, because what you're going to see for each individual, they will have how much they like doing this area and how much they dislike doing this area. For all 11, the results will show that. And they will actually choose that out themselves without knowing that that's what they're doing. They will actually choose out, you know, I really don't like dealing with people. That's not my thing. You know, give me the quiet environment where I'm dealing with things. And that'll shoot out like crazy, and then you'll say, okay, I think I know where this person fits, because I got a place that they don't have to deal with people. This is the job that I just want them to deal with things that come up. I got a job to design them, they can do it. So now the other half of this, the other part of this is the part that Dr. Mark Majors really added to this, but in addition to this, Dr. John Holland and his staff some years ago went out to all of the jobs all over the United States and many other countries and said, okay, let's see if we can't find out what kinds of jobs and what kinds of designations we can fit into for every single job, and match some level of personality with this. And so this is what brings us to this other area. This other area has to do what they call global interest areas. These are the results of learned personality characteristics which have been learned and developed as patterns of interest for the individuals. There are going to be only 6 of these. We want you to choose only one of those.
Oh, wait, said
Did you say two?
We said pick up to 3.
Oh yeah, pick up to 3. You can.
Indicate
Yeah.
by ranking which is the most important and second
Right.
important and third. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay. Oh, that's
Now,
you have
there's just 3 out of 6. Now, you may only choose 2. I mean, obviously, you can choose 2 and say you 2 really apply. You may only choose 1, but to say up to 6, no more than 3. There's 6 of them, but no more than 3. And you'll see they're really simple, actually. And it's working with physical things, and you use the letter R to designate that. And you'll see why. I'll tell you why about that in a minute. So just working with physical things kind of goes along with the other thing that we talked about already in one of the 11 things, right? It had to do with mechanical things. But this is the kind of person you're looking for, a doer. But a doer who likes the physical activity, likes to be outside maybe, or likes to do the physical things inside as well. Doesn't mind working just totally in an inside environment, but wants to do things, cannot stand to sit down very long. The second one is working with mental information. This is the person who is a thinker. Does this position really need to be a thinking position? Who's willing to analyze things. Now, it may not be creative thinking. It may not be coming up with brand new programs. It may, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. It can just be, we got a problem. I need somebody who can help me figure out how to solve the problems that we have. So it's not necessarily creative stuff, but maybe problem solving as well. C is creative, and creativity in art requires being creative. Now you use the A to designate that. And this obviously is somebody who is artistic. And then there's the fourth one is helping and serving others. That's the S. Somebody requires someone who wants to heal and encourage or nurture. It goes beyond what we were talking about in the first 11. It's not just a medical kind of a situation, but who's really the kind of a person that will really help you encourage and nurture somebody along and develop them along as well. There are some people who, like for instance in your VBS program, that this would really fit into really well, because you're doing almost all nurturing, not only of the kids who come, but the people who come to help too, because a lot of them don't know what they're doing, because I can remember my first time doing that. I did not have a clue of what I was doing. And if it hadn't been for Emily Fisk, those poor kids would have been unhelped. And then E, persuading and leading others. This is obviously a persuader, somebody who is willing to take on a lot of responsibility, who's got a part of a competitive environment, who wants to use their leadership skills of persuading and promoting. And these would be the people who are like the heads of your programs that you've got, who these are the folks who can go out and sell the program, and who are able to recruit people into the program. They're really good at sales. That would really fit into that kind of an environment. And then organizing and work environments, obviously this requires someone who is precise in their work and attention to detail, and they enjoy being orderly and like organizing their environment. So when a person takes this instrument and completes it, they will see that there are 3 of these that will stand out. Of all 6, they will stand out really well, saying that I'm really good, and it may be the SEC, just like this is up here. That S is my strongest suit, E is second, and C is right behind that. Well, if you choose your position to have these 3 things in it, you've got a lock on a person who's going to fit it personality-wise. And then you match it up to the environment that they're going to work in, and that's where the first 11 comes in. And that's why you go back. If you've got your position designated by one of those 11 things, using 2 of those, then you can say, here's a match. I got a person who's an SEC, and it fits right into the 2 out of the 11 that I've designated already as well. So make your determinations separately. Don't get confused. I have confused you because I've done them both at the same time. But go through each of your positions and just put down the 2 that fit the 11. Out of the 11, the 2 that you think really fits well. And then you can do it at the same time if you wish, but then go back and make sure then you do this separately from that. There will be overlap. Obviously there's overlap. But here we're talking about personality kinds of things. The other ones we're talking about activities, we're talking about tasks, and we're talking about environments that they're in. Obviously you would like to have the personalities match, but they don't sometimes. Sometimes they do not match. You know, you have, like for instance, you take a doctor. Most doctors would fit into what kind of an environment, say of these 6 things. What would you say a doctor would fit into for these 6 things? And choose just 3 of these things.
Helping and serving others.
Okay, that's right.
I picked one, somebody else do this.
Working with mental information, absolutely.
You hope so.
Well, yeah, because you got to deal with all your symptoms, and you got to know where to look for the answers, right? Okay, that's 2 of them. So say S and I, and what else? Maybe E.
Yeah, maybe E.
But you've got to persuade your patients to do what you tell them to do. Okay. Now, what kind of an environment would you expect them to work in? Of the 11. What number? What 6 is that? Is that
That's scientific.
scientific? Maybe. It might be a scientific. Okay. What else?
It may be individual.
11.
Yeah, or
and
9
1.
maybe.
Maybe health and medical.
Health,
Certainly
yeah,
health and
makes
medical,
sense,
right?
Number
11
1.
and 1. 1, 5, 11.
Maybe number 9.
Yeah, 9, because they want to work with each patient. And
Yeah, you'd think so.
Some of
Okay.
them.
Now, what about
yeah, others
Now let me ask you.
promoting
Let me give you a
than
specific
others,
example.
always.
Where would Dr. Oz fit in that?
Promotion.
Now he might have the same of the 3 that you chose from here, but where would he fit here? Social group environment. Because he likes being out with the folks. And he likes having the exposure to large populations of people. So you can say, yeah, a doctor who's going to work as an individual person, who's going to have a small office, can bring patients in and deal with them individually, fits into these 3, but there's also one that may fit outside of that and want to work only with large groups of people. And then there's doctors, all they want to do, they don't care about the patients. They want to research the disease.
I like those guys.
Yeah, we need to have them, don't we? That's right. So you can see that even though you have one single profession, you got different kinds of people that fit in there because they're going to be doing different things. And so you've got to look at your positions as, I'm going to have different kinds of people for each of my different kinds of positions that I have. And so that's why we ask you to choose 2 of the first 11 for your positions, and then up to 3 of these. And you can, by the way, if you wish to, this is what I would do if I were doing my own positions. I'd say, of the 3 that I've chosen for this is my most important one. This is a gotta have. I gotta have this. I've got to have somebody who's really good at persuading others. Yeah, certainly they're gonna have to organize the people they persuade. But my first thing, if they can't persuade people to come on with them, they won't be doing this anyway. So that would be my number 2. Then I might have something else, number 3. And maybe the position really is going to be in the artistic realm. So I got to have somebody like a Richard Hunt, you know, who's good at persuading. He is good at persuading people to do things and to get the job done in the artistic area, organizing the work as well. But he's got to have other factors in his ability to be able to deal with people. Does that help? And each person who takes this instrument identifies this for themselves. And good morning.
Continue, please.
I will, but I want to say hello anyhow.
Okay, hello.
Yeah, good to see you. So, if as we go through some of these, I'll stick around and we'll see if we can. If you first of all, as you read through your position that you've written up, begin to work on it, and then let me come around and answer any questions you might have about what some of these things mean.
Okay, before you get to that, if you don't mind,
yeah,
I'm going to review some of the stuff that I already said to you, but I want to get it on tape for those who weren't here. And that has to do with what Bob just went over was the majors occupational survey material, which is the second half of what we're looking at. That's our long-term solution.